I don't understand how we can at any point justify saying, well, it's okay to vote for this party that believes that you should be able to murder a child in the womb up until the moment of the mother giving birth. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're discussing the controversy topic going around Roe v. Wade, and this video is coming from the perspective of specifically the church. It's been 50 years since Roe v. Wade, passed, and there's been, I believe the last time I read it, like 68 million abortions that have been performed in that time, that at least that are on record. We're here at this moment in time where if the leaked documents are true, it looks like it's going to be overturned, which is going to change the game in a lot of states. There's some very liberal states that are going to do what they do, and then there's some conservative states that are going to do what they do. One of the things that is being thrown around a lot is this idea of, what about these poor young women who are single and economically, financially poor, and the burden that it's going to put and more kids into the system. First and foremost, I just want to start off by saying, to me, those arguments are irrelevant in one aspect. I'll take more kids in the system versus kids being murdered. And you unfortunately find a lot of Christian leaders and different people trying to talk about nuanced views and what about this and what about that. And it's this is an opportunity for the church to step up even more. And I will say even more, because up to this point, a lot of organizations that provide resources for these women that have been on the front lines fighting this fight against abortion have been from the church, have been from different churches and different organizations that have a biblical worldview, that understand that life is precious. This is an opportunity to really, number one, I think the church needs to take a firm stand. I think the church needs to understand that this is not a nuanced thing. This is a black and white issue. Abortion is wrong. Abortion is murder. I want to talk about, this exception. The exceptions are so minimal percentage-wise when you look at respondents who say why they're choosing to get some. Even within those small percentages, there's even more nuance, because in one example, people say, well, what about incest? Well, a lot of times the person that is abusing this person is using the freedom of abortion to hide their crime, because then there's no evidence of it. There's a lot of things we could talk about, but I think the church needs to take a firm stand. So that's one thing. And that entails quite a few things. I think that it's important. I am not advocating that you got to be some political person all the time and bang that drum or whatever. I think it's important for Christians to vote. I think it's important for Christians to be aware and be involved to a certain degree in politics. I don't understand how we can at any point justify saying, well, it's okay to vote for this party that believes that you should be able to murder a child in the womb up until the moment of the mother giving birth.
And in some states, trying to pass it to up to 28 days afterwards.
Birth. They just keep moving the goalposts further and further. Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, this is the same side that 2 months ago could not define what a woman was. And now, all of a sudden, their big cry is about women's rights. So they can't win either way they slice it, man. They speak out of both sides of their mouth.
Your yes needs to be yes, and your no needs to be no, and it needs to be very clear with this topic. And
if you're okay with that, I would suggest that maybe you go do some serious soul searching and see how God feels about the sanctity of human life, especially when you read beautiful words like in Psalms, like, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Like, God formed you in the womb. Like that. Those are such beautiful and precious words. I encourage you, go and support your local pregnancy resource centers that are providing all kinds of services for these women, who many on the left and many who are pro-choice say that these
resources are not available,
don't exist, but they do exist. And that's, I think, where the church could shine forth and really be such a light for the furtherance of the gospel, ultimately, for the furtherance of God's glory in the kingdom.
I will say that if a mother is in the predicament where finances are of an issue, then I'd be willing to bet, because I've seen the argument be, well, maybe she can't afford the labor and delivery side. It's very likely that she qualifies for Medicare within the state that she lives in. For those who are not pregnant, the healthcare system in general, oh, well, maybe there needs to be better birth control. I had access to birth control as a teenager. Birth control is available. I'm not saying that is the solution by any means. I think that we need to go back to the basics. One, where life begins, and that's at conception. Two, the sanctity of human life, the value in which Jesus came and died on the cross for. The value of marriage and the value of children. Let's just say that there is someone who is single. You can also choose not to get pregnant. The idea that there isn't healthcare to, one, provide birth control, or that there isn't option for prenatal care if you choose to get pregnant, or labor and delivery coverage, that is absolutely bogus. It is not true. And in a scenario where like myself, I was an adult woman with a career. I was 25 years old. Me getting pregnant didn't qualify me for some of these things that I have just mentioned, because I had insurance of my own. I had income of my own. What it did mean was that I had to measure that which where I was putting my money. And in my scenario, choosing to abort would have meant that I can continue on with the lifestyle that I was living, and the money, spending money where I chose, which was in the partying scene. I simply had to move that money over to diapers and raising my now 14-year-old son, and it has been worth it. If the mother, for whatever reason, is in a scenario where she is having a hard time, obviously adoption is an option, and I understand that there is a faulty foster and adoption process, and yes, we as the church need to rise up and get involved. And for my husband and myself, it's impressing very heavily on us as a couple, for one, pregnancy resource centers, but also foster and adoption resources. Like, what is truly available to us locally? How can we help get involved? And I think that we as the church need to not only know how to do these things, but do them. Yeah. We are called to minister to widow, or they have less advantages.
We want to focus on this poor young single mom as this victim of all these circumstances, but you don't fix that victimization by harming another victim. That's not how it works. Now, social justice will tell you that's how it works, because that's what all that whole movement is. It's like, well, these people have been the victims of all this stuff, and the way you fix their victimization is by now harming this other group over here, right? That's what abortion basically is, and we can't have that in the church. I just think these are excuses at the end of the day of how we want to just still justify and hem and haw about things. Could things be better? Absolutely. But church, we live in a fallen world. Of course, things could always be better. If you're sitting there saying, well, things could be better in this and this area, why do you think you're aware of those things? Maybe it's God impressing it upon you, because God wants you to be the one to step in and start making a difference in those areas. Usually when God makes you aware of a problem, it's because you're part of the solution. Go meet some of these women. Go find resources that you can then tell these women, like, no, look, these are available to you. Educate them. A lot of them are completely unaware. They think that their only resource is Planned Parenthood that just wants to butcher and murder their child.
Yeah, Planned Parenthood wants to give low-dose birth control so they can then return pregnant and then tell them that the abortion is the only option.
And as a church, better birth control options is not an option. We don't promote more promiscuity. We don't promote a better way to do your sin. It's never biblical. We promote God's way. We promote the Bible's way. Church, I encourage you, number one, if this ends up being true, rejoice in that.
Yes.
More lives are going to be saved. That's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
But number two, get involved. Be willing to stand in the gap. Be willing to go volunteer. Be willing to do whatever it is the Lord is asking you to do in this scenario. Be vocal. It's okay to draw the line in the sand. It's okay for you to stand in that gap. It's okay for you to stand up. Even if it's just you and God, you're still in the majority.
And if you have children, get your children. Do it as a family. What better way to show them that, God created each one of us and that we're to honor, especially the babies.
Yeah,
the unborn
so
babies.
be obedient, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Stand up for the voiceless. The Bible tells us to do that. And I can't think of a bigger group of voiceless than those beautiful souls that are inside of a mother's womb. I hope this is encouraging to you. I hope that maybe you walk away, hearing something or learning something that tugs at your heart and maybe spur something within you to get involved, to make this an issue that matters to you. If you want to leave a comment below, like, subscribe, the whole bit. Either way, we just appreciate you taking the time to listen to this. Appreciate the support.
And for those who are watching also, we would love for you to chime in if you have resources wherever you are located, because we don't know who's watching and the locations. Share those resources. Let's help get this started for those of us who maybe don't know where to start. Thank you.